Welcome to Fox Soul's Black Report, your daily source for Black news, Black views, and Black opinions. Today is Friday, May 27th, and I'm Mimi Brown.
And I'm Romeo.
I'm Demi Lobo, and on today's report, new questions surround the timeline of Tuesday's mass shooting at a Texas elementary school. Why parents are frustrated, saying more could have been done. Meanwhile, Senate Republicans blocked a key bill that would have opened debate on gun policy, domestic terrorism, and hate crimes. Then, 3 more victims will be laid to rest today in the Buffalo grocery store attack. We're remembering the lives of those whose lives were cut way too soon.
Plus, comedian Marlo Williams stops by to give us her take on this week's trending headlines with a little side eye. And Jussie Smollett is making his directorial debut. Yes, he is. We have all that and so much more. This is our voice and our truth, so let's get it.
Heartbroken parents say there are more questions than answers about the police response as they learn more details about the deadly school shooting in Uvalde, Texas. 19 children and 2 teachers were killed by an 18-year-old gunman. There are questions about the timing of events and if an armed officer was able to engage the shooter. Authorities confirmed that the school officer did not confront the shooter. They say the gunman jumped a fence and stood outside for 12 minutes firing shots before he entered the school. Authorities say he did not face any opposition until a U.S. Border Control team took him out about an hour later.
Yeah, I honestly think that it could have been, so a lot more could have been prevented or prepared. You know, I didn't see no preparedness at all. I mean, as soon as they heard that gunshot, they should have rushed in. They were there without proper equipment. I saw there 15, 20 minutes later, they came with their shields. Like, that should have been in their cars. You know, going in, not waiting 30, 45 minutes to get in.
Officials say they're still working to piece together exactly how the events unfolded. But some are left wondering if the police responded fast enough and if enough is being done or was done to save as many lives as possible. There was a press conference just a few minutes ago. The director of Texas Public Safety saying they made the wrong decision. Officers did not go into the classroom for more than an hour. And I don't want to get this wrong, so I'm going to read it. They said the students made at least 9 911 calls within the 78 minutes between the moments that the officers arrived until the moments the gunman was shot. They had at least 19 officers in the hallway before the first 911 call was reported, and they were standing in the hallway hearing gunshots, and they did not go in. They were told to stand down. They did not go in. And so there's so many conflicting reports because at that same time, while they were standing in the hallway, students were making 911 calls, and they were begging for help. At 12:16, a caller in the classroom told the 911 dispatcher that there were still 8 to 9 students alive. 20 minutes later, another student called back begging for help. They still did not come to several minutes after that. So there are so many more questions now, so many parents rightly frustrated, outraged. Their kids were literally being slaughtered while they were being held back from going inside while police were on the scene and did absolutely nothing. So, it's like, what is happening here?
You know, Mimi, I want to, kind of recant a statement yesterday, because yesterday when we told this story, I told this story, the same story on my morning show as well. And so my sentiments were hoping that the law enforcement did everything that they possibly could have. And so yesterday, the both of you were kind of like, no, parents were outside. I would let myself be in the line of fire over my children. And so I read that same story that you read about the officials saying that we were wrong, that he wasn't, the gunman didn't have any opposition. There's another story that says police, when they entered the classroom, they failed to neutralize the shooter first, and then that resulted in another student dying. There's a audio that we played of a young boy who was able to escape, and he literally told the story, a young 10-year-old, told the story of minute by minute about literally how they were saying, come in and yell help, and when a girl yelled help, she died, you know? And so, I just want to apologize yesterday yesterday for if my comments came off as not understanding, because in my deepest parts, I want to feel as though the police did everything that they possibly can. But now hearing these conflicting statements, it does seem like they're it does seem like there was a lapse in judgment here that was going on. And they're even acknowledging and admitting that we could have done more. So I wanted to just apologize, because I'm hearing it now. Sometimes when you listen back to how you felt about something, it doesn't sit right with me. So I just want to apologize if my comments came off as insensitive.
You guys covered the bases about their admitting that they did wrong. Now, I want to jump on the parent side, because there's levels to this. As a parent, you feel like you didn't do as much as you could, right? Your responsibility was to get them to school. The teacher's responsibility to protect them while they're there. All that went out the window when this young man walked inside there with those guns that he should have never had. Yeah. Now, when the police show up and they don't, and you see videos of them having more conflict and issues and interactions with parents, asking how come you're not going in there, I will. You're getting more action out on the outside than the inside. It's a problem. Yeah. And yes, there are probably going to be some lawsuits moving forward, but that's irrelevant. It's not going to bring back their life. It's not going to be, because I'm telling you right now, you would have had to shoot me because I would have hopped over the fence to get to my son. Absolutely. There'd be no question about that.
As some parents did, and some parents were tased, some parents were handcuffed. And when you think about what happened here, to arrest a parent, to tase a parent, literally simply trying to fight for their child's life, that is so wrong. And absolutely, Romeo, there are definitely going to be some lawsuits.
You know what? I heard that story. There was a woman who was arrested. She was able to, she was handcuffed. She was able to talk to someone that she knew. They let her out, and she went around and she got her 2 children out of the school. And she left before police ever got any of the other kids out. So if a parent is able to go in and get some of the students out, it just makes you wonder what police were doing and why they weren't able to go in and rescue some of these students before it got to the point where 19 kids were shot and killed, you know? And lastly, there was a story of this brave little girl. She was 11 years old who, did you guys hear that she took the blood of her friend and put it on top of her and played dead? And so the gunman thought she was dead, but she just had the blood of someone else, and she was able to survive, and she's now telling the story. I mean, to have the wherewithal to even think like that in the midst of all of that's going on is beyond me.
And I know, I'm just going to say this real quick. We had to have a conversation with our son last night, what to do in that. Tears were coming down our face, but it's the reality of our country. We have to do better. We have to be better to protect our kids and our elders as well. So we had that conversation of what he should do if he's in that situation. And it was hard, but I had to do it.
You know, I'm so sorry. I know we don't have a lot of time, kids. We're doing a live show here, but this is just a story that's very, very passionate, because I don't know if we're going to have another talk moment to talk about this. There's a company that saw an 800% increase in bulletproof backpacks.
I saw that.
There's literally an 800% increase in bulletproof backpacks, and that's where we all in America now, where literally you have to send your child to school with a bulletproof backpack.
That is so sad. I just wanted to touch on what Romeo said, because I know there might be a lot of parents out there who are trying to figure out how to have that conversation with your child. You know, there's so much going on. So on Wednesday, we're going to have a doctor who's going to come on, and she's going to give us tips about the best time to have the conversation, how to have that conversation, what it should sound like. Do you initiate it? Do you let them come to you? All sorts of questions, because I had, and I salute you, Romeo, because I haven't been able to bring that up with my child, because I don't even know where to start. Right. So there's other people like me. We're gonna tackle that on Wednesday.
And we're the Black Report. We touch on everything. We have parents here, and hopefully our soulmates, you guys resonate, because this was something we really need to get off our chest today. The United States has 3 mass shootings. We've seen 3 of them within the last week, but that's not stopping the National Rifle Association from holding its annual convention today. The convention is in Houston, hours away from the school shooting in Uvalde. Former President Trump and Texas Senator Ted Cruz are some of the bigger names who say they intend to be at that event. Texas Governor Greg Abbott was originally scheduled to appear at this event, but now his office says he will send a video recorded speech instead. But some others have changed their mind and dropped out. 2 Texas lawmakers, Senator John Cornyn and Representative Dan Crenshaw, have also bowed out. Singer Don McLean said it would be disrespectful to go ahead with this action after the aftermath of the Texas shooting. An NRA board member says the group will focus on better mental health care and try and prevent gun violence.
A prayer vigil for the victims of Uvalde's shooting could turn into a political problem for Ted Cruz. The Texas senator offered his support and sympathy to the community today during the vigil, but as Cruz was leaving the event, a Sky News TV reporter put the senator on the spot, asking him about gun control.
Is this the moment to reform gun laws?
You know, it's easy to go to politics.
But it's important. It's at the heart of the issue.
I get that that's where the media likes to go.
No, it's not. It's where many of the people we've talked to here like to go.
The proposals from Democrats and the media, inevitably, when some violent psychopath murders people.
A violent psychopath who's able to get a weapon so easily. 18-year-old with 2 AR-15s.
If you want to stop violent crime, the proposals the Democrats have, none of them would have stopped this.
Unbelievable. Cruz, who gets big campaign donations from the gun lobby, is scheduled to speak at the NRA conference today.
And Senate Republicans block a key bill that would have opened up debate on domestic terrorism, hate crimes, and gun policy. The measure passed the House last week following the mass shooting in Buffalo. It would have required federal law enforcement agencies to address threats posed by white supremacists and other domestic extremists. It failed by party lines in a vote of 47 to 47. The bill would have needed at least 60 votes to move forward. Senator Majority Leader Chuck Schumer says he'll try to negotiate a compromise bill.
Meanwhile, Texas Governor Greg Abbott is also coming under fire for comments that he made about failed gun control laws in Chicago. Abbott pointed to Chicago yesterday to prove his point that stringent gun control laws do not work. This after state law, the second worst public school shooting in American history. Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot didn't appreciate Abbott's comments. In Lightfoot, she challenged Abbott to be, quote, part of the solution or get the hell out of the way. Chicago politicians have worked hard to crack down on gun violence, but recent gun trace reports say that about 60% of the weapons covered in the city came from out-of-state dealers.
Police reform activists say President Biden's executive order that makes changes to the federal law enforcement policies is a good first step, but more needs to be done. President Biden signed the executive order 2 years to the day of George Floyd's death. Civil rights activists say Congress needs to pass the George Floyd Policing Act, which is being held up in the Senate. The executive order creates new standards for using force. It restricts chokeholds and no-knock warrants by federal police forces like the FBI, ATF, and U.S. Marshals Service.
Well, a mother and a sister known for baking, a restaurant worker buying his 3-year-old a birthday cake, and a father of 6 who worked as a school bus aide. These are the latest 3 victims that will be laid to rest today in the Buffalo supermarket attack. Geraldine Talley was 62 years old. Friends and family of Talley say she was an expert baker who treated them to all kinds of different pastries. She was with her fiance when the shooting started. He was in a different aisle and made it to safety. And Andre McNeil, he was 53 years old. He was picking up a birthday cake for his son when he was killed. He was a cook and a stay-at-home father. He loved basketball, playing guitar, and writing poems. And Marcus Morrison was 52 years old. He was a father of 6 and worked as a security guard and bus aide with the Buffalo Public Schools. He was buying snacks for his family for a movie night when he was killed. And the funeral for the oldest victim, 86-year-old Ruth Whitfield, will be held tomorrow. They are among the 10 people killed when a white gunman opened fire on afternoon shoppers almost 2 weeks ago. Investigators say he chose the grocery store because it was in a predominantly black neighborhood. You know, a lot of this is just so heavy. Even with this story, we're learning more. We're learning that the shooter, I think we said this before, that he shared his plans of the attack in a chat group about 30 minutes before he actually drove to the store and murdered all of those people. But what they're saying now is that someone in that chat group was a retired federal officer. So, in essence, a police officer.
Yeah.
And did nothing. Said nothing, did not stop it. And so now the FBI is going back and they're looking to see if they can be charged as an accomplice. Every last person, all 6 of them. And they should be charged as an accomplice. They did absolutely nothing.
Yeah. I mean, especially if you have those people that are there that may be pushing them or cheering them on to do something of this nature, maybe even responding in conversation, but yet not making a phone call to 911 saying this seems a little over the top, this seems a little suspicious. These are people that went through so much in their lives and they lost it in a senseless way.
And we're going to continue to bring you the stories of those who lost their lives in the Buffalo mass shooting. Now, days after announcing his run for Congress, former New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio says that he will push for a National Racial Justice Commission if he is indeed elected. De Blasio says the Racial Justice Commission would be similar to the one that he created when he was mayor. That group had a mandate to identify and root out structural racism in New York City's government. Now, this commission delivered 3 ballot proposals that would embed racial equity into New York City and the government services. The former mayor, he says that if he's elected, he would push to inspire the federal government to make the United States more equitable in generations to come.
A state appeals court has ruled former President Donald Trump and his 2 children, Donald Trump Jr. and Ivanka Trump, must answer questions under oath in New York State's civil investigation into his business practices. The court upholding a previous ruling after Trump appealed. His lawyers argued that ordering the Trumps to testify violated their constitutional rights because their answers could be used in a parallel criminal investigation. Trump can appeal this decision to the state's highest court.
And the U.S. Senate is officially recognizing the 1969 Harlem Cultural Festival that was the focus of this year's Academy Award-winning documentary, Summer of Soul. The resolution, which was sponsored by Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, will designate the last weekend of June of this year to commemorate the 1969 event. The resolution also encourages senators to plan activities that support festivals around the country put on by African-American artists. Questlove's documentary told a story of the little-known festival that took over Harlem during the summer of 1969.
Nearly 850 Haitian migrants trying to flee their country end up in Cuba. Smugglers who charged them thousands of dollars left them stranded on dilapidated boats. They were trying to reach the United States. They were rescued by the Cuban Coast Guard. And in the days at sea, 15 people threw themselves in the water as conditions grew more desperate. There were 70 kids, including infants, on board. 32-year-old mother of an infant said she left Haiti because there is no future for babies there. But they also arrived in Cuba at a time when the island itself is suffering from a severe economic crisis with food, medicine, and fuel shortage.
A Texas teenager is in jail after he was seen walking to a high school with a rifle a day after the Uvalde shooting. Someone saw the student outside the Berkner High School in Richardson, Texas. Police arrested him and found an AK-47 style pistol and an AR-15 rifle in his car. The identity of the young man has not been released yet.
A 21-year-old Black Tennessee woman says she will take legal action against a former cop she says ripped off her top during a violent arrest last year. This is police body cam of the incident. Trinity Clark says she initially saw the former officer, Joseph Roberts, when he pulled over another woman in a vehicle. She says when she got in her car and drove away, Roberts followed her to her house, then tackled her in front of a friend's home. She was charged with assaulting a cop, evading arrest, and failure to stop. Body cam footage shows the officer lied about several details of the arrest. A judge dismissed the case against Clark, saying there was no probable cause to stop her. Roberts was eventually fired from the force and faces charges, but in another case.
A white Michigan family is suing their school district. They say school officials did nothing to protect their adopted Black daughter from racial harassment. April and Rob Malik, they say things were so bad for their 14-year-old daughter that she begged them to turn her white. The parents say they filed more than 20 complaints with Crosswell Lexington school officials. The schools say that they would investigate the problem, but nothing came of it. The federal lawsuit alleges that their daughter endured months of racial torment. The parents say their child was called the N-word and told to go back to the plantation. School officials say they have not finished their investigation. And, you know, kudos to this parent, this family. And this white family who has an adopted daughter, giving the school officials, letting them know about these 20 complaints. But also, this is why when you do adopt of a different race, there need to be people around that child that can rally and teach them, not to say that this family, because I don't want to ever make it seem as if this family did not teach them, but there also needs to be people around you that can rally rally with you. Do you understand what I'm kind of saying? I don't want to
exactly
sound
what
as
you're
if
saying.
like you can't adopt another race, but there needs to be someone else that's rallying against to help children of other races,
Maybe
especially
other family members of the same
some-
race that can talk to you,
something.
that make you feel
Yeah.
good about who you are, what
Exactly.
you are. So when you have people come at you this way, you have something to stand on.
Yeah.
So if that's all she knows, she's adopted, they're making her feel like she's an outcast and things of that nature. It's hard for a 14-year-old to react to that. So I can truly understand that
Yeah.
situation.
Yeah, it breaks my heart to hear you say that she begged her parents to turn her white, and to your point, having other people who look like her around her to make her understand that there's nothing wrong with being black.
Yeah.
Would probably go a long way. Not to say that they don't have
Exactly.
it, but that would help her feel like she doesn't have to be turned white because her
Exactly.
black is beautiful.
Exactly.
And
it would be the same if I'm a black woman and I get a white baby or of any other, I want to make you need someone of that race to kind of rally and help that child out.
But
'cause it's a
kudos
lot
to the
too.
parents
Yes.
Oh, yeah, big
for
time.
recognizing the racism and listening to this child and fighting for her.
The Chicago City Council is awarding a man $14 million after serving 20 years in prison for a murder he did not commit. Daniel Taylor says he was 17 years old in 1992 when police coerced him into confession to a double murder he did not commit. Taylor's lawyer said that at the time of the murders, the client was in police custody for causing a disturbance. The officers involved are also accusing of coercing false confessions from 6 other men. In Taylor's case, there were no fingerprints, DNA, or physical evidence connecting him to the murder. According to the lawsuit, the Chicago Police Department also withheld information about Taylor's incarceration at the time of the murders. That vital information would have exonerated him. Taylor was eventually released from prison in 2013 after his conviction was overturned.